it took me 18 months to hit my first $100,000 month. And then it took me 1 month to hit my first $200,000 month. It's really hard to build that core, that culture. But after you get that culture, it's a lot quicker to grow.
How are you building up your team? Because it's like that can make or break a company. Like hiring, what's your hiring process? Like, how did that even work?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's an hour topic right there. Like in terms of hiring, like unfortunately, again, like the way you can look at to break it down is there's three people in your organization. There's donkeys, there's camels, there's stallions. Donkeys, camels, stallions, okay? Donkeys, very frustrating to work with. Can't follow systems and processes, won't really make any money. If you're not micromanaging them, they're not really getting anything done, they will lose you money. Camels. Camels are solid. They will walk in the desert and they'll walk straight but you have to really like guide them, right? They'll kind of keep you neutral. You're not gonna lose money on on a camel. And then stallions, you're like, yo, here's the business. They're gonna run with it. They're gonna be proactive. They're gonna make a bunch of money for themselves, to be extremely clear, and they're also gonna make a bunch of money for your company. They're gonna demand excellence. They're gonna push you harder. They're gonna push you forward. But again, stallions aren't just sort of hanging out. You gotta search for stallions, right? We probably like Franco, for example, he was probably on 20 interviews today. Maybe we'll get one guy, one stallion with all those people. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they'll talk to two or three people on Instagram. They'll get one of their boys to work with them. And as a result, you end up with a donkey. You end up with maybe a camel at best. And as a result, that's why you never make it past $10,000, $50,000 a month. You need that stallion who's one going to push your company forward, but it's also going to push you forward, right? And like if you're watching this, you're like, yo, I'm a one-man shop right now. It's just me. Any single business. Advertising, making people aware of you, right? Setting, conditioning people, getting people ready to buy, closing, getting people to sign the line that's dotted and give you money. Fulfillment, actually making sure they're getting what they're paying for. And there's a law of constraint. The weakest point, let's say your fulfillment is at $50,000 a month, but your ads, setting, and closing is at $200,000 a month. The most you're going to make is $50,000 a month. So these things have to grow in unison. And if they're not growing in unison, you're going to stay at that lowest law of constraint. So like if you're watching this and let's say you're funding a credit repair company and you're a one-man show, the first thing you have to do is you have to figure out, and again, to be extremely clear, you are doing everything. You're doing ad setting, closing, fulfillment. I was doing $85,000 a month myself, just running like a madman, advertising, putting out a bunch of content, setting, in my DMs, talking to people, closing, getting people to, jump on a Zoom and collect money, and then fulfillment, actually getting them the funding, right? You need to figure out your first lateral movement is figure out if you are advertising, setting, closing, like that's the front end, or your fulfillment. What I opted to do is like, yo, I'll do the advertising, the setting, and the closing. I'm gonna bring in a guy to do my fulfillment. So you can just focus on those three segments, and then he's focusing on that one segment. And then the next step, the next step I took is he was doing the fulfillment and the onboarding. I'm like, yo, let's bring in a VA in there because again, like a stallion fulfillment is a guy that's gonna sit on a call for 8 hours a day, push 16 calls back to back to back to back, where all they're doing is driving revenue. All they're doing is pushing applications. That's not the same skill set as a person who's onboarding a client. That person is a little bit more softer, a little more empathetic. They're going to be running through your file with you. So my second movement was, okay, I'm doing the front end, they're doing the back end. I brought in a client success manager to collect the documents. Okay, so now I have three people. It's me, another domestic guy, and a virtual assistant. And then I'm like, okay, I need to get off the sales calls because I'm on sales calls every single day for 8 hours every single day. So I remove myself off the sales calls. So then I'm just focusing on advertising and setting. I have a closer, have a guy collecting the documents, and I have a fulfillment guy. And then you just continue to build down more and more and more and more. I'll put in perspective. It took me, I think, about 18 months to hit my first $100,000 month.
18 months.
18 months
to hit your first $100,000 a month.
And then it took me 1 month to hit my first $200,000 a month.
Sheesh.
So
okay,
like,
you
it's really
in.
hard to build that core, that culture. But after you get that culture, it's just a lot quicker to grow. And again, admittedly, I hit 200, and then I hit 300 in another 2 months, and then I stayed at 300 for like 4 or 5 months. And I'm like, yo, I have to continue advertising. I have to continue scaling. And then we hit 500, and that's where we're at the time of this recording. And a lot of like the objections I get around that is, hey, that like Nathan there, he was telling me, like, he's like, okay, I have a couple guys in mind, but like, what if I bring him in and he like runs off with my business? The correlation to them running off with your business is the highest when it's just you and one other guy. Because you guys are doing the most, you guys are covering the most ground. But the faster you can scale your company, the risk of them running off with everything decreases with every single hire. For example, My sales guy isn't going to know the funding sequences. My funding sequences isn't going to know how to run paid ads. My paid ads guy isn't going to know how to run my affiliate team. My affiliate team isn't going to know what the distributor's doing. So you want to scale as fast as possible, get the $100,000 a month, so all the roles are sort of diversified, and then you just want to build down.